Hey Jason, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat here. And I understand that you're a big time wrestling fan and a Dragon fan. I also know that you have bought and paid for this Cameo. We don't have too many, to which the person that is the special person for this Cameo is the same person that bought the Cameo. Don't happen too often. So, I'd like to give you a tour of the Dragon's Den because you are that special fan. And I know later on we're going to talk a little bit about technical wrestlers. But first, let me give you the tour. We're going to start over here. Jason, I've been inducted into 3 Wrestling Hall of Fames. This one up here says the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame, NWA of Schenectady, New York. DCW Hall of Fame, that's a small independent wrestling company. And then, of course, the WWE Hall of Fame, to which I was inducted in the year 2009. And let me run by the class. We got Howard Finkel, we got Dory and Terry Funk, we got Coco Beware, you remember him, the Birdman, Cowboy Bill Watts, of course, Stone Cold Steve Austin, myself, and then Kevin Von Erich from the Von Erich Wrestling family. Let's move down to this corner. Jason, I called this one Mid-Atlantic Memories, and I have fond memories of that region. I don't know if you know, but back in the day, there were territories all around the country, and each was owned by different promoters. Now, the Mid-Atlantic was North and South Carolina and with Virginia. And I was there in 1977, started in the business in 1975. And I wrestled in that region all the way up to 1985. And then I went to the WWF. But this is a special period in my wrestling career because I got my main event start in the Mid-Atlantic region. And the guy that's responsible for that, and we'll get to him in just a bit. Right here, I'm holding the United States Heavyweight Championship belt, which made me like the #1 contender for the world champion. Now, at the time, the world champion was Harley Race. Here's a picture of me coming off the top rope with a chop. 1979. Now, why is this moment special to me? It's the first time I stepped into the ring with a world champ. First time stepped into the ring with Harley Race. And another reason why it's so special, back in the day, the main events had 60-minute time limits, and it's the very first time I wrestled anybody to a 60-minute draw. That's right, 1 hour, solid wrestling to a draw. Now, after that night, I had many 60-minute matches. Ric Flair, Blackjack Mulligan, and again with Harley Race later on. Give you a friendly mention here, Jay Youngblood. Now the championship that we're holding around our waist were the NWA World Tag Team Championships, to which we held on 5 different occasions. Love this man like a brother. He has also left us way too early. I'm going to turn this light on. I want to give you a little bit of history here because this guy is Sammy Steamboat. Now, Jason, back in 1976 when I was wrestling in the Florida territory, Eddie Graham, who was promoting there and also wrestled, gave me the name Ricky Steamboat because Sam had just campaigned and wrestled in Florida a few years earlier and retired, went back to Hawaii. And Eddie was so fond of Sam, and he looked at me and he said, you know, Ricky, you got this Polynesian Hawaiian look. I'd like to call you Ricky Steamboat, and I'm going to start advertising you as his nephew. Well, Sam was a main event guy. And the very first night that they announced to the fans that I was his nephew, the fans jumped out of their seats. So from that point on, 1976 to current, I carry the name Steamboat. So, a pair of dragon boots here with the dragon headband. And of course, I know you're familiar with WWF back in the day started promoting merchandise to be sold around the world. So, LJN dolls. I was even a stretchy. And I think all in all, I've been about 13 or 14 different wrestling dolls, all in all. Over here in this corner, there's cartoon caricatures drawn all by different artists. This one down here is sort of special, drawn by Phil Ortiz, who's one of the artists that drew for the Simpson TV show. And he drew a Simpson-like caricature of Ricky Steamboat. Very plain, black and white, but very cool. This guy here, Ric Flair, Nature Boy, 16 times he was a world champion. He's the guy responsible in the Mid-Atlantic region in North and South Carolina for getting me to the main events. I just started wrestling in that territory. He saw me and he went to Jim Crockett, the promoter, and he said, "You got this new kid that just came in, and I'd like to try and do something with on TV." We did an angle. And up there you see a picture. I've got a pretty good shiner on my cheek. Now back in the day, there's an expression that's called the hard way. And what that means, Jason, is that the hard way is you're going to take the real shot. No holding back. Just before the match, and we were doing this on TV, Jim Crockett came up to me and he said, "Ricky, Flair wants to know if you'll take one the hard way." So I said, "Sure." And that's a result of that one punch that he gave me. They played it over and over and over again. The fans in the Mid-Atlantic region couldn't believe it. And we started taking off with that angle in all the major cities around and started selling out, having great business. My very first shot to be in the main events, and it's because of Ric Flair. Row of trophies here that you see. I did compete in some bodybuilding, did fairly well, mostly on a state and regional level. I want to slide this one here. Here's a guy here, Superfly, Jimmy Snuka, and that's me on the other side. We're at the WBBG Southern States Heavyweight Championship of North and South Carolina. The judges brought the two of us out to do a side-by-side comparison, and I narrowly beat Snuka at the end of the night by just a couple of points to get this, the first place trophy. Always need to pay homage to this guy, Macho Man Randy Savage. Oh yeah! And the match that we had at Wrestlemania 3. Now I happened to get a seat back from the Silverdome, as I don't know if you know, but they demoed that building. They started selling these seat backs for souvenirs. So I got seat number 3 to represent Wrestlemania 3. Here's a picture of what the show looked like that night. And here's an action shot there with me giving Macho Man a double chop as he's coming off the ropes at Wrestlemania 3. I got one more 8x10 I want to show you. This one up here. That's a picture of me and Muhammad Ali, 1985, at the very first WrestleMania, backstage at the Madison Square Garden. What a great guy. Now, you had a technical question for me, and that is, who was my Mount Rushmores of wrestlers that were technically the best? Well, first I'd like to say Ric Flair, and I got a quick story about that. We had wrestled in Charlotte a number of times, and we had wrestled to a number of 60-minute matches to a draw. So the booker, George Scott, came up to us and he said, "Ricky, do you mind if we, let's get Flair over, let's let him win, and about 20 or 30 minutes into the match." I said, "Sure." So as the match went on, about the 20-minute mark, I asked Flair, "Are we ready to go?" He said, "Not yet." 30, 35, 40 minutes went by. And I said, "Are we getting ready to go?" He said, "Not yet." 50, 55 minutes. Now there's 5 minutes left in the match. 4 minutes left, 3 minutes left, 2 minutes left, 1 minute left. And Flair said, "Okay, let's start." The finish that we had put together. I started making a comeback on him and started pinning him. And the cue was that when he would drop to his knees in the corner and beg off, and I would rush him, he would sweep my feet out from under me. I would go down on my back. He would tell the referee to get down and count as he put his feet up on the turnbuckle in the corner. Now, as the referee was counting 1, 2, 3, the timekeeper was saying 5, 4, 3. So there was 2 seconds left on the clock. And talk about timing. That's Ric Flair. Now you can't get better than that when it comes to being a technical wrestler. And I had wrestled him hundreds of times. My number 2 guy is Jake Roberts. Now, if you know what Jake looked like, he was tall, about 6'4" or 5", built like a basketball player, never worked out in the gym, but he had great interviews. technically sound doing interviews. But in the ring, his psychology. And what I mean about that is knowing what to do, when to do it, and why you do it at that time of the match. Some guys would argue that I would rather do that at the end of the match. But his psychology of putting a match together and orchestrating it throughout the whole time that you're in the ring with that guy was just off the hook. Macho Man Randy Savage was a very, very technical guy. Yes, some say a little bit over the top. Some, I've used the expression a little anal at times. That match that we put together at Wrestlemania 3 had 250 steps, and we comprised it down to about 160 with 20 false finishes and trying to remember each one consecutively in order. Very, very technical guy. But I know that everything that he does in the ring, he does in the match, had a meaning and a reason behind it. And my number 4 guy is Jay Youngblood, a tag team partner that I had for 4 years while we were in the Mid-Atlantic region. I mentioned him earlier. We were the NWA World Tag Team Champions. Now this guy was a 5'10", 5'9", 190 pounds soaking wet. But God, could he work in the ring. And his body language and facial expressions. Now, everybody says that Ricky Steamboat is one of the best salesmen in the business. Learning how to sell to make your heel look like he's really hurting you. But I learned a lot of it from Jay Youngblood. When we were tag team partners, I would stand on the ring apron and watch him work in the ring as the other heels would beat him up. And he would fight back. The body language, facial expression, even the moments that he used his hands to show that he was in pain. I learned so much from that guy standing on the apron. He took me to school every night that we worked as tag team. We had some great matches against Sergeant Slaughter and Don Canoodle and the Briscoe brothers, me and Jay. So there's my top 4. Now, I've been in the ring with some great, great heel workers. Blackjack Mulligan, Greg Valentine, Roddy Piper. And they all rank up there. They're top workers in our business. But I just mentioned the guys that I thought that were technically the best to go around. So I hope you enjoyed the tour. I hope you enjoyed my 4 Mount Rushmore guys. And most of all, Jason, I want to thank you for being a fan.